Hi friends and readers. If you clicked on this video, then you probably know that this week's reading vlog, I'm going to be reading 2 books inspired by Rhett Link. This video is going to be 2 of my favorite worlds colliding, which is reading and books and Rhett and Link. Now, if you don't know who Rhett and Link are, they are 2 creators on YouTube. They have been doing the dang thing for years. They have such a different array of videos and what they do. So if you've never seen them, go check them out. They are putting out videos usually like 5 times a week under the channel Good Mythical Morning. And for someone who doesn't have a lot of men to look up to in her life, I love, adore what they stand for, what they put their money towards. They are such great creators. So I thought it could be fun. If you haven't watched any of their videos, if you haven't ever listened to their podcast, Ear Biscuits, then this is me telling you to go do that. I am no way affiliated with them, but I think that they're great creators and I thought it would be really fun to do this video. I went to the Good Mythical tour last year with some friends, and if the opportunity ever came up again, I would go and spend my money to see them. They are the funniest people ever. I named my 3rd cat Stevie after Stevie from Good Mythical Morning. And if you do know Rhett and Link, or you've ever been a part of the Mythical channel, whether that's watching, listening, or anything like that, leave a comment down below what your favorite mythical moment is. One of my favorites is when Link said, "Something, something, something, gag me with a spoon." Completely out of context. If you are just here for the bookish talk, I'm sorry. As far as the 2 books we're reading this week, I'll introduce them later on. For the first book though, we are gonna head to the library to pick it up because it is available at the local library, and I have 1 minute left of my lunch break. So I'm gonna catch you later on today, which is Monday, to introduce our first book. Talk to you then. It is now later on in the evening from earlier, and I thought what better way to start off reading books inspired by Rhett and Link than reading a book written by Rhett and Link. If you didn't know, then now you do. Rhett and Link put out a science fiction mystery novel back in 2019 called The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. This is a young adult science fiction novel, and I actually discovered this because they talked about it on their podcast called Ear Biscuits. Now, if you don't know Rhett and Link, you might not get into Ear Biscuits. They talk a lot about their lives and the behind the scenes of being creators and being creators for all the years that they've been creators. But I myself watch or listen to Ear Biscuits and sometimes watch the episode on YouTube every single week. And years ago when they were putting out The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek, they did put out an Ear Biscuits episode of, you know, behind the scenes of creating the novel and writing the novel. That's how I knew that they had a novel. And all these years, I just had never picked it up. I don't know why, I just hadn't, and decided what better than to pick it up this week. Now, historically, I'm not the biggest fan of young adult, but this will be my first young adult science fiction in current day now that I'm reading again. I'm sure that I read some young adult science fiction back in middle school because Rhett and Link's characters in this fiction novel are in middle school. It's the year before they go to high school. We are actually following Rex and Leaf in this story, a play on Rhett and Link, but their names are Rex and Leaf, which has been kind of confusing. This story is about Rex and Leaf in the 90s in North Carolina, which is where they are from, the early 90s. Rex and Leaf are best friends. They are trying to do a film, what they're calling Polter Dog. The details of the film aren't necessarily that important except for the fact that they are going around with the film camera and they do something stupid, and their friend Alicia, who is sort of the third wheel to their friendship that they both have a crush on, gets in trouble, and they send Alicia off to this school. It's basically a school to reform the wayward. And keep in mind, anything that a middle schooler does, they get in trouble. Anything that someone does that's against their parents' authority, they get in trouble, and they're sending them to this reform school. You really can't tell, you know, what's a bad kid and what's just a kid doing kid things in the South. And when I say South, I mean they're talking pig pickings, they're talking Baptist churches, and this is all from the perspective perspective of two authors who were born and raised in the South themselves. So when their friend Alicia gets sent off to the school, they're now trying to figure out, you know, is this school really what's good for kids to reform them? Or is there something mysterious and bad happening at this school? Because a few of the children have died in the last 20 years that the school's been around. That's a little bit about what this story is and a little bit about what direction we're going. I am 100 pages in, which is so satisfying. I finished the chapter and the chapter ends exactly on page 100. So nice. And I'm gonna just keep reading this evening. Science fiction is also a little bit out of my comfort level, but with these being middle schoolers, it really is just an interesting story. I have no clue where it's going to go, but I'll let you know soon. Hello. It is now Tuesday. I am on my lunch break. Got about like 12 minutes left. Wanted to give you some updates on The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek by Rhett McLaughlin and Neal. I am sporting my Mythical Tour shirt today that I got last year. In the book, I have made it to chapter 16, which is page 188. I flew through this last night. I was watching football and it was muted in the background, so I got to read a lot more of this copy and wanted to give you some updates. We are still following Rex and Leaf as they are trying to learn more about this mystery school that is meant to reform kids who've done bad things in their town. They are discovering some really strange and weird things, and they also are trying to help find out if they can get their friend Alicia out or if she's okay being at this school. We're also now getting a point of view of a outsider. Her family lives in this town of Bleak Creek. Her name's Janine. So we're getting her point of view. She's a little bit older and she's trying to film a fun documentary to get her career upstarted again, and she is happening upon Rex and Leaf and they might join together to film a documentary. Not sure yet. As far as how I'm feeling, I actually, as you can tell, I'm flying through it and really like it, but a lot of me is wondering how much I would like this since it's young adult, since it's science fiction, if I did not know anything about Rhett and Link, because so much of their lives is intertwined into this, even though it's fiction. If you know Rhett and Link, Link hates tomato and his character in this brings up not liking tomatoes on his pizza. And then they named one of the side characters Ben, which was the name of someone that they were great friends with in their real lives. I am picking up on so much, which like feels like I'm in the in, I'm keyed in, I know what's going on. And that's why I'm enjoying figuring out the story and where the mystery or the science fiction's going to go. But would you, if you don't know anything about Rhett and Link, so let me know if you read this, don't know Rhett and Link, tell me how you feel about it. One other thing that I think is just altogether, I'm reading it from a library book and it just feels so nostalgic. Rex and Leaf are entering their first year of high school. So they're talking about a lot of, you know, just things that you went through as a middle schooler going into high school, where you're gonna sit at lunch, forgetting to wear your deodorant. And to me, it just puts me right back in that place, especially someone who went to middle school and high school in the South. And then reading the library book with the plastic cover, the smell of a library book. I'm so glad that I ended up picking this up in a library book instead of a fresh new book, because it really puts me in the setting. And lastly, I do wonder if there is, since I listen to Ear Biscuits, Rhett and Link's podcast all the time, I wonder if there is a audiobook by Rhett and Link. There's gotta be, I imagine. I'm gonna look into that because I think that would also be a fun experience to hear Rhett and Link narrate their own story. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to work today, and honestly, I have 100 and something, I think this is 300 something pages, so I'll probably finish it tonight after work, and I'm excited to see how it wraps up, to see where this mystery goes with Rex and Leaf. I'll update you then. If I do anything in this life, it's to convince you to get in a Walla. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It might feel like evening in this clip, but it's actually like 6 o'clock in the morning. I have to go into the office today. I do work from home a good bit of the time, but today we're going into the office. So I had gotten up a little extra because I don't go into the office often. So I over budgeted a little bit of time and had some time to finish up The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek by Rhett McLaughlin and Neal. And honestly, I'm going to rate this book a 4-star. Which is so surprising to me. I know I love Rhett Link, so I know that that is probably a lot of bias and subjective feelings about this book because I listen to them, I watch them on YouTube, and so I feel like I was able to pick up on so many things that were similar to all the stories that they've told over the years, and that made me feel so much better about reading this book because I would usually never pick up young adult like this, especially young adult science fiction. So giving it a 4 stars is kind of funny to me, but I really enjoyed it. So I want to know if people who don't know Rhett and Link read this book, how they would feel about it. So if you're one of those people, please let me know. As far as the storyline, I tried guessing, you know, what was happening at the reform school, why people, like where the plot was going, and I couldn't guess. I would say it's a funny story. There's a lot of comedic lines in here. It is very nostalgic. I just felt like I was in middle school. I felt like I was going back to high school in this story. They did such good writing and putting you in the characters' ages, which a lot of times does not happen for me. So I was really excited about that, especially someone who grew up in the South. Little Horn Hat, if you read the story, I wish they were nicer to Mr. Horn Hat. And then also one final note, without being a spoiler, at the reform school that these kids are sent to, they have weird punishments. And one of the punishments is called the roll, and I just couldn't believe they wrote about that. I was trying to tell my boyfriend about what the roll was, punishment of the roll, and he was like, what? So read the book and find out what the role is. That's really it. I am gonna head to work today. It is now Wednesday morning and we are gonna start the second book on my Kindle. I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited. So once I get a little bit of the ways into that book, I'll explain to you how it's inspired by Rhett and Link. Talk to you later. Alright, it is now Thursday and it is after work. I did work today. I think the last time I updated you was yesterday, Wednesday morning, when I finished The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. So now I'm going to introduce you to our second book for the week. That is a book inspired by Rhett and Link, and the book that we're going to be reading, and I've already started reading, you probably saw on my Kindle because it's on Kindle Unlimited, is Unloved by Peyton Corinne. Now you're probably wondering, how do we go from a book written by Rhett and Link to a book written by Peyton Corinne, a hockey college romance book? How does that have anything to do with Rhett and Link? Well, I haven't read it in the story just yet, but apparently, according to Rhett and Link and their assistant Jenna, this book references GMM, Good Mythical Morning, and Rhett and Link a few different times throughout. I learned about this on their podcast. I'll put a picture over here of the specific podcast they talked about this in, and I'd already read the first book by this author, and this is the second book in the interconnected series. So I thought, this is perfect. I am going to read it, and here we are, inspired by Rhett and Link. So if you haven't already, go and listen to Ear Biscuits, and specifically the episodes that I've been referencing this week. So the first book in this interconnected series is called Unsteady. Unsteady, I actually gave it a 3.25 star, so I would still recommend it to someone. However, it was not my favorite of relationships. It was a hockey romance, college hockey romance, that followed Sadie, who is an ice skater, and then Reese, who is the captain of the hockey team at their college. That book was a very emotional book. Both characters had a lot of heavy topics going on in their lives, and not to say that that's not a good thing to read about and represent in books, it just, at the time I read it, wasn't like a 4-star, clearly, read for me. If you are looking to read Unloved, I do actually recommend going to read Unsteady first. You know, sometimes in interconnected series, it doesn't really matter, but so far in Unloved, we are following the exact same timeline that the characters followed in Unsteady. We are seeing Reese and we are seeing Sadie in this book, and sometimes with these interconnected series, the plot will pick up where the last one left off, but not with this one. It's starting at the same time that the first one started, and I'm reckoning it's going to end around the same time that the first story ended. And a lot of the plot is re-mentioned when it happened as like a side plot in that story is now the main plot in this story. So definitely go read it first. Now, to talk a little bit more about Unloved, because I am a good bit of the ways into it already. I picked it up starting last night before I went to bed and have since been reading it throughout the workday today. I'm on page 98, which is only 22% of the way through the book. So this seems like it's going to be a long one. I think I already said it's a college hockey romance story. Before we dive into what it's about, a quick synopsis. This book had a playlist at the beginning, one of the longest playlists I've seen for a book. But if you don't know, the author has sort of paired songs in the beginning. Some of these songs are just songs that are playing in the background of the characters' lives, and they mention it like, oh, this song was in the background, an ABBA song. And then I think maybe some of these songs are songs that are sort of describing what's actually going on in the plot. And I saw that a Suki Waterhouse song was listed in the playlist, and I absolutely love that song. Love Suki Waterhouse. The playlist is very wide a range of songs. And at first when I read it, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be an emotional roller coaster if all of these songs are in it. I love looking at the playlist. I think it's such a fun idea. All right, now I've been rambling forever, so we're gonna give you a quick synopsis about Unloved and who it follows. So we are getting a dual point of view between our female main character, Ro, and then our male main character, Freddie, both of which made appearances in Unsteady. Ro is in her senior year of college, and she's majoring in biomedical sciences. She's very educated, very smart, and she's also a tutor. She's had a boyfriend over the last 2 years. He's a jerk. We don't want to see him anymore. And then our male main character is going to be Freddie. And you guessed it, Freddie is a college hockey player and he needs to be tutored. He is falling behind in his classes and wants to graduate. I do love Freddie. He's great representation in this book for a male who is battling certain mental health issues. And also Freddie has dyslexia, ADHD, and then dyscalculia. I need to look into that because I'm not too familiar with it. So I love the representation that we are getting with this main character. You know where this is going. I know where this is going. I'm excited to be along for the ride. I will probably listen to a little bit of this because my Spotify hours renewed today and I want to go on a bike ride. So I'll see you probably tomorrow, which is Friday, thank goodness, and catch up once I know a little bit more about Ro and Freddie. Hi friends and readers, I am looking at my phone because I did some notes on there, but it is now Friday, thank goodness. I'm on my lunch break. It's literally 12:05, just went on my lunch break, and we made a ton of headway in Unloved by Peyton Corinne last night and even this morning before work. I am on page 261 and I'm only 58% of the way through this book, which is chapter 37. This must be a pretty long book because I'm nearly at 300 pages and still probably have 200 more to go. A little bit lengthy of a college hockey romance in my opinion, but I'm actually really liking it. I have not gone through 60% of a book, especially a college hockey romance, and not been completely cringed out. And this book, I'm not. I'm really enjoying our female main character Ro and our male main character Freddie. I absolutely adore Freddie, and I love getting to see him in the tutoring scenario and the academic scenario, working through his ADHD, his dyslexia, and persevering. Absolutely love it, adore him. He's such a cutie. I think that Freddie and Ro have such good communication so far, and that is like never the case in these types of books. I think that's pretty much why I'm liking it. We all hate the miscommunication, but that's often what the third act conflict is. I don't think we've entered the third act conflict, so I might be eating my words the next 40% of the book, but so far so good on communication. Also, really good timing on picking the book up now. I think both of my books inspired by Rhett Link have been good timing. Right now we're in a Halloween party, so it feels like it's a good fall time book. And also I think that I've discovered who book 3 will be about. I'm sure that's already been announced because the book releases sometime next year. And now what we all came for is why this book is inspired by Rhett and Link, and that's because we do have one of our first direct quotes from one of the main characters about Rhett and Link, and I highlighted them on Kindle, so I'm on the Kindle app. It's just much easier to navigate the Kindle app with your highlights than it is on the actual Kindle itself, in my opinion. The first quote I highlighted is not actually a direct reference to GMM or Good Mythical Morning or Rhett and Link, but I thought I would highlight it anyways. Our female main character at one point in the very beginning said, "He might as well be a mythical creature to all of us." And if you don't know, sorry, Rhett and Link calls their fandom mythical beast. I myself am a mythical beast. Let me know if you're a mythical beast. So I thought I'd highlight that, just the reference of mythical. But the direct quote that we got from Freddie was when he was talking to Ro, she asked him what his favorite movie was or favorite thing to watch was, and he didn't want to directly say what it actually is because they hadn't gotten to that point yet in their relationship, but he had an inner thought that said, "Not really. I mainly watch YouTube videos. I like GMM. I don't say that I watch them all the time, often to fall asleep or when I first wake up. It weirdly makes me feel not so alone." And like, me too, Freddie. I love that. I love that little 2 sentences that allows you as a reader to connect to that main character. We're gonna keep reading. I'll probably get some reading done Friday night and read a little bit more tomorrow morning. Fridays are actually normally when I do a lot of the cleaning around the house, and because it's on Spotify Premium, I'm gonna try to listen to some of it today while I'm cleaning as well. So I'll catch up with you when I finish the book. Fingers crossed we still like it the last half. Hello, hello. It is not Friday. It is Saturday. It's actually Saturday at like 3:40. I actually finished up listening to Unloved by Peyton, Corinne. Earlier today, I helped clean my neighbor's house bi-weekly, which I got some clips of. And so I was listening to it this morning while I was cleaning her house, and I did end up finishing it up. And I am so excited to say that normally if I finish a book on audio and listen to it on audio, and then also just towards the end of any hockey romance book, I typically lose the star rating. I know when I last spoke to you yesterday, I was feeling really good about the book, but I was really hoping the last 50% would not change how I was feeling. And this is probably the first time in a long time for a hockey romance that the star rating went up for me at the end of this book. I absolutely love Freddie. I love how he treated Rosalia. Their little pet names were more of their just like intimate use of their real names instead of pet names. I mean, he called her Princess sometimes, but when he called her Rosalia, so cute. They were just so cute together. I love the evolution of Ro loving herself and the evolution of Freddie loving himself. I just thought it was the perfect pairing. I like them so much better, which sounds bad, than the first 2 characters. But I will say I liked Reese and I liked Sadie's perspective in this book a lot better than I did in their own book. So I'm gonna rate Unloved a 4.5 star. This is crazy, a 4.5 star. Did get one more direct quote from the book that had to do with Rhett and Link. On page 263, Rose said, "Something plays on the TV, muted but colorful enough to cast a glow over us. The same 2 guys eating ridiculous food at a desk, a comfort show he often turns on. It's calm and relaxing, welcoming in a strange way." And once again, I cannot relate any more than I do to that quote about Rhett and Link and GMM. So I am just super excited to wrap up this week's video, and I'm so glad that I chose to read books inspired by them with a 4, which honestly I might have even have rated a 4.5 star, and then another 4.5 star book. One of the better reading weeks that I've had in a long time. And who am I kidding? I should have known Rhett and Link. They're so inspirational. And just hilarious. There were a good bit of other quotes in there that didn't directly reference GMM, but instead referenced like internet show or YouTube, where you can feel like they were alluding to it just with how many times they did directly reference it. I think that's all for now. I'm so excited. I had such a great week reading. And once again, comment below if you like Rhett and Link and what your favorite moment has been with Rhett and Link, if you find yourself in their fandom. And I will see you later. Bye for now.